Hi guys, happy Friday. Thanks for joining us. You're watching the show for the adventurous wine drinker. We are Igor and Anu. We're the owners and founders of Vinousreverie Wine Merchant based out of Walnut Creek, California. And today we have a special show. We have a special wine and a special guest joining us.
Yes.
So really excited to have Jenna Fields, president of the German Wine Collection.
Yes.
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 So super excited to have her on. There we are, and let's invite her in.
All right. Should be a fun show. Okay.
All right.
You excited? All right.
Just give it a minute. Hopefully she'll.
We'll show the wine in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to show it?
Yeah, go ahead and show the wine while I.
All right, guys. So. Oh, there.
There you are.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Am I sideways?
You are sideways.
I'm sideways. Let me figure this out. Sorry.
It's all
okay.
good. We could do it that way, wouldn't it?
There you are.
Yeah.
All right. Hi guys. How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. So we're tasting, what are we tasting today, Igor?
Yeah. So let's show the bottle. Yeah. So this is
Yes.
Scheurebe, the grape.
A real unicorn wine.
Yes, I'm excited to hear more about that. But before we do that, Jenna, do you mind telling us a little bit about how you got into the wine industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had just the crazy fortune of going to school up in Sonoma. I went to Sonoma State and got to work in some fantastic tasting rooms on the weekends. And at the time in college, my boyfriend's mom was a banker. And there was this crazy importer guy named Rudy Wiest that would go in and, cash his checks on his own because he's old school. And she's like, what's this Sellers International, which was the importing company. What's this Sellers International company? My son's girlfriend, she's really great and likes to be in the wine, and she's in the wine industry and works in tasting rooms. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And they spoke for a long time, and she asked him for a business card. So I'm a senior in college and get a envelope from my boyfriend's mom with a business card that says, call this guy. He's a wine importer. He seems interesting. Yeah. So I didn't know, a senior in college, didn't know what I was going to do. We had a 2-hour conversation on the phone, and long story short, I was on a plane to Germany 2 weeks after college graduation.
That is so cool. That's a great story.
All wineries and had no idea what I was doing, what I was in for. And it was just, I look back on it now and it's just crazy, like, right place, right time. And I always encourage people that if something seems weird, check it out. It might be,
Oh, always say yes.
Changing business card I received in the mail in college. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So if I could kind of guess from your conversation, Rudy Wies was the company before the German Wine Collection, which is the company where you're the president at right now. So can you kind of let us know a little bit about transition that occurred? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Rudy Wiest, along with some other very well-respected people like, Ernie Lozen and Skurnik, and Rudy Wiest really was a pioneer of German wine in the United States back in the 70s. He just fell in love with it and started as a collector and helping other people their collections, and realizing there really wasn't a great representation of German wine over here, and dedicated his entire life to it, which was really cool to be around, like somebody like really doing what they love, like what they're meant to do in life. And so Rudy, he up and down a little bit, but 27 different wineries in his portfolio. And I mean, this guy lived and breathed German wine. It's his entire life. And he is now about to turn 85.
Yeah.
And so a few years ago, it was kind of like, I can't be doing this forever. And it was like, what's the future going to be? And when it was decided that he's just going to, hang up the towel and retire, we were all like, that wasn't the plan. My plan's German wine forever. And so it was kind of this scramble of what are we all going to do? And in having a conversation with Rudy, it was kind of like, if there's any way to continue this, like, you have my full, blessing and support. And so between, the team and myself and the wineries, we're like, this is really important. This needs to continue, and there has to be a way forward. And so we had the great opportunity to meet with the owner of Kartäuserhof, who happens to, be a huge fan and knew about the Rudy Weiss portfolio and really had a passion to continue it as well. And so that is, who is behind us is the owner of the historic winery in the Ruhr Valley, Kartäuserhof.
Okay, very cool.
That is very cool. Yeah, and so, like a little story for me. So when you first opened the shop, I had an order with Rudy Weiss, and then when I was looking for wines to give, I was like, what happened? Where did they go? So I had to, find you guys by the, the long way around.
Right. And we tried so hard to keep consistency in the market and not let anything go out of stock. But little did I know, because before with Rudy, for 12 years, I was working in different sales roles. I had no idea about COLA registrations and TTBs, and that every single state has different licensing. And it was a little more of a project than I could have ever anticipated. And so, yeah, there was a little time where, some of these wines may have not been in the market, but we did our very best to kind of keep consistency and get everything moving as quickly as possible. So, especially in 2020.
Well, we love German wines. Yes. Obviously, I think both of us personally think that Riesling is the greatest grape in the world.
Yes.
And just from tasting some of the Pinot Noirs, I mean, second to Burgundy, I think you could make that argument easily. And a lot of people don't even know that Germany makes Pinot Noir. I think that's the kind of interesting.
But that's exciting. That's an opportunity, right? That's exciting.
Yeah.
Like, Pinot Noir is one of the most popular varietals. You see it on every restaurant list. You see it in every wine shop. And people are like, huh? In Germany? And it's like, yeah, they're the third largest on a global scale. They're the third largest on the planet. France and the US with Pinot Noir. And so that's where I'm so excited to have another generation to really, move this portfolio forward, and what's going on in Germany, and let's make sure there's a proper representation here, and let's get it in the glass and get people talking about it. And I think when things are unknown, it just means it's an opportunity. So
yeah, I agree. Yes.
Well, let's jump into the wine then, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. A little Scheurebe on a Friday night.
Yeah, so Jenna, can you first maybe go through the region, and then the grape, and then maybe at the end about the winemakers, kind of a little backstory about the family.
Yes, absolutely. So Pfeffingen is located in the Pfalz region. And so when you're looking at, I should just have a German map ready to pop up.
Got it.
There we go. I love it. So with the Pfalz, you're looking at the most northern tip of it is right under the Rheinhessen, which is the largest region in Germany. And then right under there, you go to the Pfalz, the second largest region in Germany. And the Pfalz runs, when you think of a wine region, it's not small. You can drive for 2 hours south and still be in the Pfalz. And you drive all the way down to and it hits the Alsatian border. Actually, right where another producer of ours actually sits on the border, Becker, in the town of Schweigen. So that's the southernmost border of the Pfalz region down there. And then so in the Pfalz, as most places in Germany, Pfalz Riesling is king. But as we were just talking about, these Pinot varietals have really grown over the last couple of years, almost 30%, in popularity and growth in these regions, especially with Pinot Gris, which also is second largest in the world on a global scale behind Italy, and Pinot Blanc, second largest behind France. And so the Pfalz is major players in these as well. Scheurebe that we're talking about today with the region is less than 2% of the total production in the region, which makes it kind of fun and cool that we get to sit and talk about it. It makes up a much higher percentage in my wine fridge. But speaking in the terms of what's going on over in Germany, we're talking about less than 2%. And then also a nice piece of history. We wanted to do the region, and then I guess should we go right into the history of the varietal a little bit and talk about Scheu before we go into Pfeffingen?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Tell me a little bit about the grape, because Scheurebe, it's a cross, right?
Yes. So traditionally people are like, oh, it's Riesling crossed with something wild, but we can identify what that wild thing is, and it's Bouquet Rebe.
Okay.
Yes, and so this guy, Dr. George Scheu, crossed Riesling and Bouquet Rebe in 1916, actually in the Rheinhessen, but some of the original plantings were in the Anneberg vineyard, which is right by the Pfeffingen property, which is kind of interesting. So right there, it's neighboring. And Scheurebe as a varietal, it was originally planted as more noble sweet dessert wines, and actually where, you know, we're really seeing an increase in Scheurebe in the drier style. And that wasn't, don't quote me on the exact year, but I believe 1978, the first year that we really saw this in the dry style. With Scheurebe, it's super exotic. It almost starts and seems like it's going to be a little more like Germany's answer to Sauv Blanc, and then kind of goes into this Traminer characteristic. You know, has these exotic notes, think like lychee, grapefruit, citrus, peach, but then kind of goes into this, like, a lot of times darker cassis-like fruit. I find it so, with German wine, I always like to talk about it in the context of food. But with Scheurebe, it's one of those where no one's ever heard of it, and I put it in the glass and people are like, oh my God, what is this? I'm like, Scheurebe. And they're like, I've never heard of that. And I'm like, I know, and it's amazing. And, you know, it kind of goes from there. So really, I love it as an aperitif, as an intro, but then it's also so great with food. And actually over in Germany right now, we're in spargel season, which is white asparagus. And it pairs so well with that. It's so vibrant and great acidity, but a little more texturally, a little more lush than, say, a Riesling that's, you know, piercing linear. It's a little more flesh on the palate. But
what were your notes?
Well, I said I tasted it earlier because I don't like to do tasting notes live on the spot. It's too much fun.
Yes.
I wrote down lychee and pink grapefruit. I definitely thought it was there, and I also thought it was like that mineral lime, and I thought it smelled like, to me, it smelled very tropical. So
yes.
Yeah, I love spicy food, so I immediately was like, oh, I could have something spicy with this.
Yes, absolutely. When I am out, like in Hawaii doing market work and everyone's having Mai Tais, I'm like, no, you just need a little Scheurebe.
Yeah, that's a good one.
You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, as a varietal, I think it's always going to be, whereas Riesling, I'm like, it doesn't always need to be niche. It just needs to be understood. With Scheurebe, it's always going to be niche, and just with the smaller plantings of it, and where it can go. But I think instead of, a lot of people say that Riesling is or not Riesling, but Scheurebe is underrated. I think it's just unknown.
Yeah. Riesling is underrated. Yeah.
And Riesling is underrated. Yes. Riesling, people know it. It's underrated. It's underrated and misunderstood.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 But yeah.
But with Scheurebe, it's just unknown. And then the second it's in anybody's glass, that it's remembered. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Absolutely. So a little bit about, where this is coming from with Pfeffingen. So as I said, some of the early plantings were right near the Pfeffingen property. And Pfeffingen is actually about to celebrate its 400th anniversary, young winery. That was
400th as a winery. That is so cool. I do know that 4 generations on there work in the vineyard.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy when you think about, it just reminds you that here in the U.S. we're very new. When you think of a family business that's gone back to 1622. So in 1622, they actually had the family crest bestowed on the Aimile, or the descendants of the Aimile family, who owns it today. And on that family crest, yep, there's a unicorn. So there isn't a unicorn on there just because, it's gimmicky, and unicorns are awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can see it there. It used to be a full, like, unicorn on its hind legs, and we've, like, tamed the unicorn a little bit. Yeah, but it's a true unicorn wine. Like, you go there and there's a stained glass window in the tasting room that has the full, like, unicorn, and established in 1622. So yeah, with Pfeffingen, they're pretty traditional to what you see in the rest of the region. It's planted 60% to Riesling. they're actually a lot higher with a focus on Scheurebe at about 10 to 15% of their plantings. And then they also do quite a bit of Weissburgunder or Pinot Blanc, and then also Pinot Noir, as so many are doing in the region, and then a smattering of other things, such as Gewürztraminer, which is, you know, planted less and less in the region and in Germany in general. But another fun varietal to talk about.
Well, I thought, thanks for taking us through the winery history. I thought it was so cool because I was looking up the history of the unicorn, and I was like, wow, that's so awesome. 1622.
Yeah, so back in the 1600s, there were unicorns as much as there are today, I suppose.
Yeah.
Jenna, I have a question for you. Since you worked in around Sonoma, and then when you visit to Germany, is there like an observation that you can make about how people approach winemaking between the two regions? Is there, like, you know, because you're talking about tradition in Germany, which obviously doesn't exist in Sonoma, and so I don't, you know.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's so much newer. I would say that I necessarily saw winemaking differences. I definitely worked with winemakers that were looking and going and studying in Burgundy and studying in Germany, and, you know, taking, which is so smart because we're so new and there's so much history and experience there. So I think it's more of a collaborative effort with what's going on here and kind of seeing what's going on over there. But something that I mean, I thought I was going to go over there and like throw out everything I've ever learned and start over. And there was actually so many similarities. And I think the one like common thread between all of it is just like the family component to it, the family business of it. I think that's my favorite part, is going over there with all of these friendships that have been built now over the last decade plus. And really being able to make a difference to these small family growers. I mean, I guess we didn't even talk about, like, with Pfeffingen. I mean, he's producing 300 to 450 cases of Scheurebe. And so to think to give them representation in the United States, and like those relationships are important, just like with, you know, in Sonoma with some of these smaller family wineries that I worked with, like, yeah, I mean, just what you do for them is important. It makes a difference. And really kind of these wines are all a reflection of the family and the character of these families. And so I really think there's more similarities than differences in the experience that I had, whether it was in Sonoma or in Germany. I think what was so attractive about Germany is no one knows about it. And I always approach it from this 22-year-old that didn't know anything. That's like, oh my gosh, how much sweet wine am I going to drink? And I'm like, oh, but the sweet wine is balanced with acidity. And these are balanced wines, not necessarily sweet. And they have their application. But I was absolutely blown away by like 70% of what I was tasting was bone dry. And I was like, you know, I've worked in wineries and I'm into wine, and I had no idea. Why didn't I know? Yeah. Why don't I know? And I just found it completely fascinating that I can go and taste wine with people and give them this aha moment every single time, and it's still that way. And so it's never boring, and it feels like there's just so much purpose behind it because it's still so unknown, or, as we were talking about, to bring it full circle, misunderstood.
No, it's fantastic, you know, overview, and thanks for bringing in these amazing wines, because, you know, we love them. You know, I'm glad I was able to pick up some of the interesting wines, you know, from the collection, the Scheurebe. I got the Becker family Pinot Gris, and then, you know, I don't know if you can see the comments, but my mom's already enjoyed the Meyer-Nakel wine. So, so if you can give us a sneak preview, me and Otto are going to do next week. And yeah, so we were just talking about Pinot Noir, which in Germany, I think they've been making for 1,100 years. And a lot of people in America still don't even know that Germany produces Pinot Noir. Right. So can you give us a little bit about the R region and Meyer-Nakel, which is a really famous producer in that region?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, you know, it's kind of a great leeway from our conversation tonight to lead into you guys talking about Meyer-Nakel Pinot next weekend, talking about kind of Germany's global stake on Pinot Noir. And Werner Neckel is basically one of the founding fathers of quality German Pinot Noir, and really put them on the map. I mean, he blew everybody away back in 2008 with his 2006 vintage, when he won the Decanter Prize for best Pinot Noirs on the planet. And it almost doesn't even make sense because it's the furthest northern growing wine region in Germany, producing ripe Pinot Noir. And I would say for next Friday, have your pictures ready of Darnau, because this village, it's literally this little village under these cliffs of Pinot. And it's absolutely beautiful, but you have this predominantly blue slate that's getting this reflection of the river, and just they're able to ripen Pinot Noir because of the perfect plantings of the position on the steep slopes with the reflection of the river. So it's really interesting. And I would say if you're going to dive into German Pinot, I mean, starting with Meierneckel is quite the way to go. And really interesting what's happening right now with the transition of him handing the winery over to his 2 daughters. So I'm sure you guys will have a lot of fun kind of dissecting into Meierneckel and German Pinot in general. And yeah, hopefully talking about Scheurebe and some other interesting stuff in Germany and what's going on over there will spark some interest for German Pinot Noir as well.
Well, thank you so much, Jenna. I mean, you were a lot of fun. It's such a great overview, and thank you for joining our show. It was definitely been a pleasure, and I hope everybody enjoyed this. So
thank you guys so much. Thank you for the support, and thank you for the opportunity to join you guys. So
yeah, of course.
Enjoy the rest of your Friday night and your weekend, and I'm sure we'll be in touch soon.
Yes,
Happy
absolutely.
Mother's Day
Happy
to
Mother's Day.
you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right.
Again.
Thank you, Jenna.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next Friday. Take care.
Bye.